We are going to die here today. Anyway, everybody knows who Lola is. She's a writer, first and foremost. The fact that she puts on Ake every year is a blessing for all of us, but we are not here to discuss Ake. That was yesterday, so maybe it will pitch up. So, and let me thank Writers Project for bringing us together, because it's a riot. Lola called it bloody brilliant. It is so. She's my sister. When you engage with Lola's work, everybody is tempted to go straight to Baba Segi. But that's not where I'm going. I'm going to your first book that I read, and that was Maywa and the Masquerades.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Okay. Maywa and Masquerades. I think my son Kobe was 4 years at the time. Yeah. And I was always looking for African children's books. So that was the first book. So let's talk about that one.
Okay.
Why? And you know, if I hope I don't put you on the spot, because I'm going to ask you why you didn't continue writing children's books. But let's talk about Maywa.
Okay. First, I want to say a massive thank you to Mamle and Martin for having me, and for bringing me from Nigeria to a city that I love. I love being in Ghana. You all know how passionate I am about Labone coffee shop and the fish that they sell there. I had a fish gasm yesterday, another one. So it was, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And of course, to pair me up with my sister that I love and I respect so much gives me great joy. So thank you to Kinna. So I've always written for children. Remember, I was saying yesterday that I was a school teacher for many years. So one of the ways that I would respond to the stuff that the kids were doing was to write about it. So I have quite a collection, you know, buried somewhere in my unfinished projects. But I wrote Maywa because I was annoyed with my son, Maywa. His name is Maywa. And I was irritated with him because I guess it was no fault of his. Well, I just couldn't stand this thing where kids want to sit in front of the television playing video games all day. So I wanted to, I told him on several occasions that there was life outside and away from the TV, but he didn't believe me. Mm-hmm. So I decided to write it. Maybe then he would believe me, especially the stories of some of my experiences going to my village, you know, in Ilishan Remo. So many of the things that I remember, the fruit, the yeye fruit, which I don't even see in Nigeria anymore. I never see that particular fruit, but it was such a big part of my growing up. You know, anytime you think the yeye fruit, you can almost put naughtiness in the same sentence, because to get that fruit, you are either climbing trees, going, finding your way, climbing the fence to enter somebody's compound, because the yeye tree is never in your own compound. So, you know, that was a major thing. And then I loved the masquerades, and I was seeing how, you know, people had become so condescending when talking about some of the things that I really valued in the 80s. Of course, with, you know, religious fundamentalism, masquerades are now demons. And I just thought, so my kids are going to grow up not seeing that color, not seeing some of those incredible images that I had access to whenever I traveled to the village. So that's really why I decided to write it. It's a way of capturing a certain time and keeping it, but you know, it's there in store for children, you know. But I do write for children. I published a children's book last year because, you know, these books are quite expensive because of the color, and a lot of them, of course, still come from abroad. So I decided that I was going to do this experiment, and I didn't want to put anyone else through the trouble. So I decided I would write a children's book, find an illustrator, work with the illustrator, but the real work was in trying to do everything that we could to make it as affordable as possible. So we managed to do it to the point where each book was 250 naira. And that's exactly, what we were selling it. And then paper went up and it had to go to 500 naira. But that's one of the things that drives me. I want to see how we can make beautiful books on the continent, in Nigeria, but beautiful books that are accessible and cheap.
And thank you. It was such a big part of Kobe's life, age 4 and 5, and also and I'm glad you got it so well illustrated, because people publish books for children in Africa and it's like black and white and stick figures. Like, why? It's not by force. But what really got Kobe into the story was, and he's still very much, he still loves to go to the village. So this whole idea of the masquerades, which ties into our festival season. Anyway, thank you. Thank you. It was fantastic. I have to say.
Thank you so much. I'll send you a copy of Do As You're Told, Baji. And then I have another one coming out probably in December called Iyaji the House Girl.
Don't you all want to be me? Baba Segi's wives. Yeah. I reviewed Baba Segi.
I remember.
And I had issues with it. I
remember your issues.
We'll come to it.
The person who shits forgets easily. The person who packs it, it stays in the mind. So when you get Kinna, many people may not remember this, but Kinna Reads, the blog, was like the foremost, literary blog on the continent at a certain time. I was so excited when I found that she had reviewed the book, and I started reading it. Like we say in Nigeria, my heart began to cut, and I realized that she did have a few issues with it. But you'll notice that when I finally met you and Mama at that conference in 2012,
yes,
you couldn't tell that I was upset.
No.
You see,
it's a good thing.
There's acting skills.
But of course, Mommy read it and was, Mommy and Humor, they are like same WhatsApp group. So she was like, I don't even get your problem with it. I was laughing throughout. But let's get to Baba Segi.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, usually I am going to try in this conversation with Baba Segi not to spoil the line. But this book has been out since 2010. And if you are sitting here and you haven't read it, too bad for you. I'm going to try. Honestly, it's been made into plays and, so don't be so left behind, eh? Yeah. Because some of you, if you hear Yajesi has published a book, you go out and you buy it, Lola, well, get the book. Anyway. 2 issues. The thing about African women writers are always, which is a good thing, we are writing about infertility issues from the point of view of the woman. You and Ayobami turned that on its head. So why? Why did you take that angle? Yesterday you spoke about the origin of the story, but let's...
Yeah. For me, it was just the opportunity for vengeance. So I'd seen all those stories, but in particular, I was in Form 4, reading A Lion and a Jewel, The Lion and a Jewel by Lola Shoneyin, like I said. And, I came away from the play just feeling less worthy, so when I heard the story that this book is based on, just a few weeks later, I thought to myself, this is the perfect way to get back at those writers who write about women in a certain way. So here you have this collection of women who, to survive, have had to be cunning, have had to be, unconventional. And I thought it was brilliant. It was a great idea, and it was a way of, making the point that, one, it isn't always the woman, And you'll be amazed the people who believe that it is always the woman. I've had conversations with professors who have told me that, you know, I've had 5 girls. I don't know why my wife cannot perform. You know, they don't seem to realize that it's their problem. So there's a line in the book. There's this ultrasound center in Ibadan, and on the wall it says, "Don't blame mommy for the girl, blame daddy."
Yes.
You know? So I had to copy that, and that's actually in the book as well, because there's a scene that's actually set at that particular ultrasound center. But yeah, the idea was to kind of get back at, to kind of provide an alternate narrative to what we know is a common problem, and also to show that women are not always to blame, even though that's what we have to live with.
The humor. Did you always know you could write such? You could be so. Well, you are very humorous in person. That's why I love you so. But it's something else to carry it off in a book.
I wasn't really making an effort to be humorous. My friends tell me that when they read the book, they just feel like I'm talking into their ear.
Yes.
They feel like they can hear my voice, because I'm full of silliness. I think it's a family problem. Both my parents, we just. Laughter has always been something that has saved us in my family, where we have been through some of the most incredibly traumatic things. But somehow when we're together at a dinner table, the neighbors are unhappy because of the noise from the laughter. So it's pretty much a part of my life. I have to hold back a lot of the time, because it's just being silly and humorous and, joking is so much a part of my life. So I have to hold back, because I don't want people to think that's what I'm like all the time, even though it is, So...
One of my problems had been, I don't know did I put this in the review? Oh dear. Oh. Bonale, as I saw her primarily as an agent of change. Like she comes through to change a situation and she leaves, and I was unsatisfied with that. That's what she seemed to have come to overturn and show them the truth of their lives and move on. When a book ends, it ends. We shouldn't ask writers what happens, but I was unsatisfied.
I understand that, but Bolanle as a character, for me, I mean, as the writer of that character, I was actually looking at depression without talking about depression. So this was a girl that had had this really traumatic experience in her teenage years. So to even place the burden of being a catalyst for change on her is totally unfair. The fact that this whole secret was exposed because of, it kind of happened because of Bolanle. It's not something that she planned.
No.
It's not something she would have been capable of planning in her state. She was healing as well. So, I mean, that's the way that I would respond to that. I wanted to build a character that kind of was in a particular state, and then things kind of improved. Life and the stuff that was going on around her brought certain truths to her attention, but that doesn't mean that she's going to respond the way that we think that she will respond. And also, I mean, another question, which is very valid, is why would a university graduate even marry a man like that in the first place? And you're not the first person who'd said it, but I went to university with people who are in polygamous families. I have friends who are married to, who are in that sort of arrangement. And trauma, and when you're depressed, you're also likely to take decisions and steps that really may not be to your advantage, but you don't know it. You just recognize it as a way out, and you pursue it. And I'm speaking, of course, from experience. So I know what that feels like.
Like.
Yeah.
I'll have to revisit. And then my other issue, this is Kinna's panel, so it's all about Kinna. Was Baba Segi.
Yeah.
Despite how I predominantly feel about men, there are some male characters I like in books. Yes. And I was upset. Baba Segi was like a buffoon. Sometimes, like I felt like
because he was shitting himself.
Yeah, I felt like.
But my mom does that.
No,
I've never confessed it to people, but my mom has that thing where when anytime they hear bad news, they just have to go to the toilet. Yeah. And I thought maybe she had a real medical problem, and that would reveal itself later in life, And I thought maybe it was mental or something, but then. It was my husband that told me that, no, it's quite common that some people, the link between their emotions and the gut is so, and it's why, we say there's so many things that we say when we refer, when we're in pain and when we're hurt and this is where we feel the pain. So it was a regular thing that I had unfortunately had to grow up with. And then, when I was kind of building this character, I just thought it would be also a good way to get back at my mom for all the times she beat me when I was a teenager.
But did you tell her? Did she realize? Did you tell her?
I didn't have the courage.
Oh, wow, you see.
But maybe after this,
she will see this.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it was so bizarre to me that would happen to her. You could almost predict it. So if you went into the room and said, somebody had an accident, she'd just go, yeah, and get up. So people would quickly clear the path for her to get to the loo. It was weird. But, I just thought, let's keep it real in the book.
I love you.
I love you too.
You want to read something?
Yeah, why not? So, is Nana here?
Nana,
she's still here. Nana, Sex Lives.
She's gone to her panel.
Oh,
I tell you.
So I wanted to read this in her honor.
Read it.
Yeah, before I read the section I was going to read, it's just a little bit about Iyatokbe. And it always makes me laugh when people talk about this section because a lot of people don't clock. They don't realize what's actually going on. So I'm going to read it in a very sexy way for you. I have a secret. I have started weeding again. I do it when Baba Segi comes to lie with me.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it. He keeps clasping my hands high above my head to stop me. But when he is in the throes of humping, I wiggle one arm out of his grip. I close my eyes and scrape the soil. I push aside the leaves. I prod the stem and pinch the bud. My mind goes to the meat cellar and I pull slowly, very slowly. Then, quite unexpectedly, the plant is uprooted and pulsing at my fingertips. I do not open my eyes. I do not want Baba Segi. I do not want to see Baba Segi looking at me. So there's that. Thank you so very much. So I'm going to read Queen from Queen, which is another one of the wives that I like very much. Iyafemi is the one who's a bit of a bitch. And I really enjoyed writing her because I could let my inner bitch flourish. With this character. It was a lot of fun, and I could really write about a lot of the extreme circumstances that I'd seen within my kind of larger and wider Christian family. So here she's talking about an experience they had as a family. When a plan does not go right, you plot again.
One day you will succeed. One day you will be able to damage the person who hurts you so completely that they will never be able to recover. I have told Segi this on several occasions. I keep telling her that we need to find a permanent solution, but she does not have wisdom. She says we should continue to humiliate Bolanle until she runs away. Let us just cut her feathers, she says. Well, the bird has shown that she can fly without feathers. I knew we should have gone for her throat. We should have bled her into a hole in the earth. I have suffered too much in my life to let that rat spoil it all for me. So what if she's a graduate? When we stand before God on the last day, will he ask if we went to university? No. But he will want to know if we were wise as serpents. Because that's what the Bible says we should be. If we let Bolanle ruin us, then we will all have failed before God. I reject failure in Jesus' name. I will not fail. You see, this only happens in Africa. This is how you people, you cannot help yourselves. The prophets in my church have seen that this rat has an evil spirit. I can't say God has not revealed it to me too. He shows himself to all who serve him in spirit and in truth. I'm glad Segi has come round to my thinking. She has now seen that we need to do something. Now that Baba Segi has decided to take the rat to the hospital, time is short. When Bolanle first arrived, I scrubbed her tongue with bitter leaf. I made her understand who is in charge in this house. I showed her the sting of hot peppers. If she comes to this world again, she will run if she hears the name Iyafemi. Let me tell you one of the things I did. Laughter kills me just to think of it. I don't think she had been with us for a year when Baba asked me to make ashoebi for the entire household. The neighbor's party was in 2 weeks' time, and he wanted us all dressed in the same fabric from top to bottom. I want you to look like queens, he said. I looked at him and wondered why, if he wanted wives who looked like queens, he married this woman that looks like a toad, or that scrawny rabbit that nibbles at Bolanle's burrow. And that's Bolanle. Is that his idea of a queen? Being a graduate does not make you beautiful. I know true beauty. It is in pale yellow skin. I was born darker than this, but I use expensive creams to make my natural beauty shine. Anyway, on the day I went to collect the clothes, I came out of the house and heard Bantu's "No More No Vernacular" screaming from giant speakers on the neighbor's fence. I danced into the pickup, leaving the entire family waiting in the living room. The tailor store was only 20 minutes away, but I stopped at a few places. By the time I got home, even my sons were sweating from anticipation. I rushed into the sitting room, arms laden, and surrendered the pile of clothes to a stool by Segi's feet. The witch sniffed the air around me. She must have picked up the scent on my thighs. I was waiting for the tailor to put finishing touches to your clothes, I said. Oh, would you have preferred it if I came home without them? It is wonderful that we will all be dressed the same. Sometimes I wish I could pat myself on the back. My cunning knows no bounds. For a few moments, Segi stared at the outfits. The children couldn't conceal their impatience. Mama, the clothes. Akin pretended to cough as he spoke, so his mother wouldn't think him wayward. Segi cocked her head with interest before reaching for the pile and placing it on her lap. The witch touched all the clothes before anyone, as if she wanted to render them second-hand. She fingered the plastic buttons and touched the threading before giving each outfit to its respective owner. One by one, everyone stepped forward. Segi told Iyatokpe to drop Bolanle's clothes by her bedroom door. She said everyone should return to the sitting room in 30 minutes so we could set off for the party. I got dressed quickly and headed to the sitting room so I could see everyone come in. Segi caught me in the corridor as she came out of the bathroom. She ran her eyes over my outfit. Such beautiful gold thread. Such fine sequins, she said. Her throat was thick with fury. The tailor said he ran out of sequins when he started to sew yours. And then he said the girl who sold them to him was in confinement. But if you want, let us exchange. I will wear yours and you can wear mine. I even started to unzip my blouse at the side. She would be lucky if she could fit just one of her breasts in the entire blouse. She hissed and turned into the bedroom. Baba Segi joined. Have I read enough? Yeah?
No,
should I? Okay, so I'll just finish this. Baba Segi joined me soon after to inspect us the way he always did. As the children walked in, he looked with pride at the parade of red stars against royal blue. He nodded as his face went from face to face. Segi soon waddled in. Her dress resembled a pillowcase with long sleeves and a ruffled collar that extended all the way to her ears.
Oh.
That thick neck of hers is an embarrassment. If she always had to wear clothes with high collars, maybe she would eat less. Maybe she would stop grunting like a pig every day. Iyatokpe, for her part, looked no different to her 3 daughters. Did she not behave like them? Was she any cleverer than they were? I told the tailor to sew the skirt 2 sizes too big and the blouse baggy and without darts. The neck gaped and slid off one of her shoulders. As usual, she didn't say anything. She was more concerned about Bolanle, who had just emerged from her bedroom. Bolanle's outfit looked like it had been knocked together by a roguish hand. To be honest, I sewed it myself. I watched the tailor on a few occasions and made the skirt from the discolored ends that he did away with. Instead of the square meter that the rest of the wives received as headgear, Bolanle's head was bound by a bright purple strip of cloth about 8 inches wide. I don't even remember where the cloth came from. Her face was bland, as if there wasn't a single thought in her head. Who knows what the lizard was thinking? Everyone stared at her. Iyatokpe drew her palm to her lips, but Segi's eyes began to twinkle. I knew she would like it. My husband finally asked me to stand up. You can trust me. I gave him the queen he asked for. My skirt was fitted and the slit rode just above my knee. My blouse was adorned with sequins and crystals, and the darts shaped my figure and lifted my breasts. I was well accessorized too. Matching court shoes and bag, coral beads on my wrists, and a large gold crucifix. around my neck. It was a good day. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. That's how you do a reading. Wow. We should feature you at Ake.
You know, I told you yesterday I was a drama teacher.
No, but you are equaled only by Sarah Ladipo Manika, who
yes.
stands and performs her
Yes.
readings. But thank you very much. And of course, you've done the audio.
Yes, I
In
did.
this same fashion.
Yeah, I tried to.
Buy the book and the audio on Audible, please. Please, so. Thank you. Beautiful. You know, when you took... My mother, Amati, I should say, says that the issue is not whether it's polygamy or monogamy. The issue is marriage for women.
Oh, yeah.
So, expand. Because you have choice words for polygamy, rightly so.
Well, you know, the way I felt about polygamy at the beginning of the novel, when I started writing it, was very different to the way that I felt about it at the end. And after it had come out and I was kind of reflecting on the new things I'd heard and the way my own thinking had evolved, I absolutely agree with Mama on marriage. I think marriage is almost an impossible, institution for most. I think what it demands of individuals, especially of women, is way too much and is unjust. And also the responsibilities that it places on women as well are a problem. But what society doesn't understand is that that process has also just created a whole crop of incredibly skilled, incredibly bright, incredibly resilient, and very smart women. But one thing I will say is that if I had a problem with polygamy, it would be the idea that in that situation, you really, as a woman, have to accept the love that you are given. You're not really in a position to ask for more. You're not even in a position to express that you're dissatisfied with the fact that there's favoritism or anything. And I don't like the competition and the competitiveness that comes out of that. I've seen it. My mom has talked about it. My granddad, the Ikperu Oba, had 5 wives. And my mom, I remember her telling me that her mother, being the first wife, saw my mom one day coming out of the house of the youngest wife, with palm oil around her mouth. And my grandmother was really upset. And my mom was like, what's the big deal, man? I just, the woman's cooking is brilliant, and I just went to eat. And she got what was coming to her for saying that. But in addition, the reason my grandmother was upset was because she believed that woman would poison my mom to get at her. Because it often isn't really about the children. It's about that competitiveness amongst women. And that's what I think is damaging, is sometimes demeaning. If I had to reimagine polygamy, I would probably think of it in a very different way. I understand and accept that some women choose it. And in my world, women have to be able to make those choices.
Because sometimes, absent the men, you look at this group of women and you're like, wow, collectively they would be a force.
A force, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was my mom, when I was about 11, I saw a picture of a very well-known Nigerian king with his 3 wives. And this man is very wealthy. So he had these 3 wives who were almost the same complexion, wearing the same clothes, with the same necklaces as somebody from, Oh, no, not this one's from Abeokuta, somewhere around there. And they were all dressed the same and looked really cool. And I saw this newspaper article. So I ran to my mom and I said, I've thought about it and I've decided that when I get married, I want to marry someone, you know, who can marry me and two of my friends together. Because to my mind, I just thought we can go shopping together, go clubbing together, but my mom was so upset that I said that. So that's when she started telling me things and telling me stories. She didn't want me to think it was all just a cushy life. She wanted me to understand the dark side. So she told me a lot of things, and there's some of those things that made it into the book.
Thank you. The success of Baba Segi, you have managed, where other writers have to write 15 books in succession. You have managed to keep this book in our consciousness since 2010. Not only the book itself, but the plays that went around the world.
Yeah. Incredible.
And in that sense, is it that you thought of it? Or, I mean, tell people how you did it, because it's hard enough they have to write one book and market that one book. But you have, I mean, because it's not that it's an excellent story. A lot of people write excellent stories. So how did you manage that?
Well, if it's any consolation, I should probably admit that nobody talks about any of my other books. So
true, we are coming to that.
You know, it's not unusual to be a writer and to have that sort of situation where people talk about your work as if you've written the one piece. Yeah. But as a writer, you can only really be grateful. And that's what I am every day, humbled by the fact that the story continues to resonate. It's come out in so many different forms that had nothing to do with me. You know, a woman in Austria contacted me and said when she read the book, she couldn't sleep until she created the graphic novel, and she had to go and look at, you know, on the internet for pictures of Ibadan, but she just couldn't get the characters out of her head. So you have the graphic novel, you have the one-woman play.
Yes.
With my friend, her name has just jumped out of my head, the journalist. You've got the full stage play directed by Femi Olufowoju. You've got the radio play. Sorry?
Memuna Jalo.
Memuna Jalo, of course. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Memuna, if you're watching this, forgive me. And then you have the radio play. And then, of course, the audio book, which I was fortunate to voice myself. And now you're going to have the series on Netflix. So it hasn't been... Thank you so much. So it's a gift that keeps on giving. And all I can be is grateful. And hope that every writer has this sort of experience. And that's part of what I'm interested in.
Yes.
You know, I want writers to be celebrities. I want people to know, love, follow their work, because they're important, and the things that they say are continue to be important. For instance, there's a big thing in Lagos at the moment. There's a new DNA lab. So you can see, if you just search for Baba Segi, you just see lots of references to it, because that's the first thing that comes to people's minds. Yes. When, you know, in that situation. And then the advertising for the DNA lab.
We've had some high-profile cases in Ghana to men discovering.
Oh, yes.
After they fathered the kids, and the kids are like teenagers and tweens, saying,
No, but that's part of the selling point. You never know if that child you love is your own. Go and check. So that's like that's how they sell it, and it's like, God. And people will say, you don't want to end up like Baba Segi, and I'm just like,
Baba Segi. So after I read Baba Segi, I went in search for more, as I usually do with people whose books I've liked, and I was delighted. You are a poet.
Yes.
Many people don't know this. In fact, how many of you know she's a poet? Oh, put your hands down, you people. You don't count. Always cheating. You've come to sit in front. So your poetry. How do you feel that you are not known for your poetry?
Doesn't bother me.
It doesn't bother you.
Yeah.
Because I love your poems.
Thank you.
Yeah. You have one to read for us?
Well, I think I have. Let me think. There's one that the only reason I remember this is because it's quite cheeky, and it also aligns with my views. I hate bras, and I hate that I have to wear one. And when you have big boobs, your choices become very limited.
Yes.
You know, you can't, sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, it's no bra day, I don't care. Every day for me is no bra day. Then, as I go and shower, by the time I'm ready to dress, I just, with humility, go and take the bra from, because I just don't have, I'm not as strong as Zuki, I just don't have her strength. And so there's this poem that I wrote probably in 1993. And one of my arguments then, being a very strident and very stubborn feminist, was I believed also that the bra was the Western influence. We have the bra in Africa because the West has come to impose its pointy boobs policy, on us. So I kind of wrote this poem in response to that. So it's called Blessed Brazier, and you can actually sing it to the tune of Blessed Assurance if you like. That was the point. So it goes, blessed underwire, my bosom is at rest. Yea, I am now confident with this steel at my chest, for my boobs are now pointing not southwards, but west. I, in my brassiere, am happy and blessed.
Who is keeping time for me? How much time do we have? Yeah. What is that? 3 minutes? 30. Oh, okay. How did that happen? 3. Who kept the time? I haven't even asked the audience for questions. Audience questions. Writers PG, we are going over by 10 minutes. I'm telling you now. No. Anybody else besides this class of 2 known people? You back there, yes. Hair first. You looking at you. Where is the mic?
Can hear you. I didn't realize, thanks for that question, I didn't realize how cathartic it was until when I finished the book and I was editing it. And the writers, and there are many of you here, you know how nasty that process is, because you've written this book and you think you give it to the editor and they can just say, well done. But then you have to edit it about 20 times and read it from the beginning. And it gives you thoughts of like the world can, if it could just end. But on one of those occasions, I was reading the conversation between Bolanle and her mother, and it reminded me so much of so many different situations where I was trying to get through to my own mom, and how I found it impossible, and it was like we just did not belong to the same world. And I felt that some of her views and some of her actions were very direct, have directly affected me negatively in my life. And I didn't realize that I was kind of reenacting that. So although it wasn't, I'm not Bolanle, that's not my life. Her life certainly isn't Bolanle's mom's life, but it was the texture of the conversations, how difficult, how uncomfortable, that thing where you're talking to someone and it's just clear that they have no understanding of, or no appreciation of what's going on in your head, and probably kind of vice versa. So that was, yes, absolutely. It's very healing for me.
it's a way of allowing me to kind of engage in gossip with myself. So it's things I've heard, things that I found fascinating. I'm able to bring that and tell that as part of the story. So it sometimes helps me to flesh that thought out properly when I'm writing about it. And then I understand exactly where I stand as an individual, having written that part. So very much so.
Next question. Mamle. We are not getting up. Don't come and rush us off.
I genuinely knew Lola as a poet first. And actually, I own several collections of your poetry, which I read quite a long time ago. And one is called All the Time I Was Sitting on an Egg, which I think is a wonderful title. I haven't gone back to it, so maybe you can tell us briefly how you came up with that title. But my real question is, your poetry shows a very different Lola. I think the Lola the poet and Lola the playwright and Lola the organizer are kind of different people. The poetry, I find a lot more seriousness and sort of privacy in the poetry. And I'd just like to know, how do you navigate that distance between the person you are as a poet and the person you are? We've seen your comic genius and how talented you are with the comic aspect of actually quite serious topics. But in your poetry, I find more of the serious side. So yeah, that's my question.
Thank you. The poetry for me, a lot of my poetry, I have to confess, a lot of it is autobiographical. It's where I'm most comfortable talking about myself. Fiction doesn't give me that, but poetry allows me to hide behind the poet persona and say some of the things that I really feel. So when I hear like the conversations around abortion and things like that these days, I'm just like, wow, that's really interesting, because I wrote about that nearly 2 decades ago, and very vividly as well. So of course there's no doubt how I feel or where I stand or what my thoughts are about that. But yeah, poetry just allows me to do that. And it's probably one of the reasons why I don't write as much poetry, because I do worry. I worry about, it's almost like being on social media. That's how I see it. But when I write a book, number one, I know because it's poetry, not a lot of people are going to read it. So somehow I feel like my secret is safe with this select group of people. But now, for all sorts of reasons, I just constantly feel exposed, and I don't want to feel that way, because it doesn't always feel good for me afterwards. So yeah, that's the really. Well, I do write, but I don't. If you look at Daughters of Africa, it's my poetry that's in that, not fiction, not non-fiction, so I do write. My 4th collection is going to be called Feather in Nest. So I go with So All the Time I Was Sitting on an Egg. It's like, wow, I didn't realize there was something there. The second one is called Song of a Riverbird. The third one is called For the Love of Flight. And this one's going to be called Feather in Nest. So,
but wait. You said something I want to pick up on. You're feeling more and more exposed.
Yeah.
I want to stay with that.
Okay.
Because you are doing the Lord's work, the Lord with an E, the Lord's work in creating platforms, bringing African writers together. The conversations we have at Ake and Kabafest are unprecedented. I don't know where else. The freedom, the space you give us to discuss these issues and the safety. And of course, it's going to bring you more attention. And I don't see you stopping anytime soon. So number one, how are you going to deal with the issue of your own personal exposure? How you feel about that? And number two, how do you feel if you the question is providing all this space and enabling all this beautiful stuff to happen, is that encroaching on your creative process, and how do you feel about that? So the two questions.
Oh, interesting questions. Thank you. I don't know. I feel I'm just going to be honest, and it's maybe not very modest, but I really feel that I'm one of those people who has two main gifts. The first one is empathy. The second one is the ability to do a lot of things at the same time. Because I see people who struggle with this, but for me it comes so naturally. And a lot of it has to do with my training as a teacher, where even if the school is burning down, your job is to keep sanity and to make sure other people are not worried or afraid. Yes. Yeah, so everything can be happening inside, but you try not to show it. So that's how I can do it. And in many ways, I don't know, maybe it's like having a multiple personality disorder of some sort, because maybe that's what it is, because I am able to be this person and then become somebody else, and in 20 minutes become somebody else. I don't have an explanation for it. I'm just kind of lucky that I can do it. And I do what I want to do. Standard. That's how I've always been. If I'm not writing right now, it's because I don't want to write. The minute I want to finish this novel, I will make the time to do it. When I wrote Baba Segi, half of it I was in full-time education, the other half I was in a full-time job raising 4 children in the UK. So when I just made the rules between 8 p.m. and 2. I don't want to remember that I have children. And I told them that, and they understood it. That was our deal. You know, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to know you exist. I want to forget you, you know, during that time. And that's the way I was able to be productive. So you can imagine, when I need that space, I will make it. But it doesn't encroach. I'm doing these things and I'm able to do them because I'm lucky enough to be able to do them. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What?
Kinna, don't let them come and beat us.
No, 2 minutes. 1 minute. Who? Frankie, you are a visitor. Frankie we'll bring Lola. Frankie is powerful. Give your question to this one. Okay, 2 questions. One from your writer's project. You didn't bring me all the way here from Community 20 to shut me up. It's far.
Thank you.
Just 5 minutes.
Yeah, quickly.
This is what she does at Ake Festival.
Yes.
I'm tired. And I've told them already. Next Ake, I'm building a booth, glass, for Kinna and Frankie. So that when we're at an event, they can be there, but we're going to soundproof it so that they can have their private conversations. Yes, yes, Leye, sorry.
So you talked about your family.
Yes.
And she's coming out of the other wife's home, and she's obviously going to eat there, and the grandma is upset because she could have been poisoned. There's a family we both know in Ibadan, in Bodija, where we grew up, where there's a big compound with many houses for all the different wives and the children, a swimming pool in the middle, and nobody swims in it because everybody thinks one family has poisoned the pool. So it's such a shame that that's happened. Now, amongst other things, one very important thing your book has done and continues to do, because your book continues to be relevant, is it opens up discussions about polygamy and all the multiplicity of things, dynamics going on. What, of all the different questions or of all the different times people have told you how your book has affected them, has helped them in that kind of situation, polygamy that they're dealing with or they're part of, which one of those profound experiences are you able to share with us?
Such an African question. Just a long preamble with like different levels. I give you the mic. This is what I get in return.
And after
I'm just looking at you like, do you not know Kinna?
And you know how much alcohol I've consumed in my life.
Give the mic.
How am I going to remember?
Give the mic to her. You've wasted
What is your inspiration?
Writers, it's almost over. He just took advantage. Yeah.
Okay.
You two ask your question, she will answer it
I will
together.
answer you in camera.
Okay.
Sure.
You said
Put your hand up.
polygamy had created an incredibly bright crop of women who are also resilient. And I heard somebody behind me, I don't know who, say, in what way? So could you expand on that?
It's survival. When you are in a situation that's meant to be joyous and a marriage, the whole idea is that is you've left your parents, you've gone into this space. But when you have to compete for relevance, for the good face, like we say in Nigeria, of your husband, you learn some real life skills. So you are taken out of that situation. A lot of the women flourish because they're strong. They've learned to, even self-restraint. If the junior wife walks past you and pushes you like this, sometimes you can't even respond. So you learn to hold back as well. So you learn all sorts of skills that I think are incredibly useful in real life. But I'm only saying that because in every situation where men have tried to damage women, I have to find something good for the woman. There has to be something good that comes out of it for the woman. So maybe I've kind of overthought it, but
no, but you're correct. When you think about resources, affection, all sorts of things. Yeah.
And fighting for your corner.
Yeah. It's true social human relations. Yeah. I'm about to end. Okay, everyone. Kinna has overstepped. Thank you so much for joining our chat. Baba Segi's Wives is on sale. It's on Audible. It will be on Netflix. So if you don't have a Netflix subscription, as soon as you hear it, get a Netflix subscription. And get on the bus and the plane to Ake one of these days.
You are all invited.
Thank you, Lola. Thank you, Writers PG.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Kinna, my darling.